All right, let's get it started in here. Nerd.
Blah, 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 blah. All of that chit-chat's gonna get you hurt.
I'll bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Toss a coin to your witcher, a friend of humanity.
Thank you. All right, Knights, we got a treat for you. Guess what we're doing today, Jay?
Talking Marvel, Spider-Man.
Oh, I was going to say DC because that's all we know, right?
Well, and I'm wearing a DC shirt, but, I feel like we need to talk Marvel. I mean, you're wearing a Marvel shirt.
Marvel shirt. I'm wearing mine with my Spider-Man chair behind me, which you can't see because I have a background on.
So I actually called in a guest, didn't I, for this?
You did, because it was such a massive trailer, and I know how much you love trailers.
Yeah, I know, right? I actually hate trailers. So fun fact. So real quick, introducing Wyatt. Is it okay if we say your last name?
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay, Wyatt Merrill. This is a buddy of mine through his wife.
That's right.
And he's a Marvel expert. He's like a tier legend. So his resume after the Spider-Man trailer came out, my brother came to me and was like, "Hey, you got to have this guy in your cast." He watches the movies, then he listens to all the podcasts, all the YouTube theories and stuff, and then he rewatches the movies. And then, is there anything more, or what else do you do with it?
So this is my process. I watch for pleasure. I don't look for Easter eggs. I don't look for anything. I just watch and enjoy. And then I watch looking for Easter eggs or any like little hints or any like dialogue, and I'll rewind. And then I go listen to like podcasts, and I listen to like Screen Crush and New Rock Stars, those really big YouTube channels with all the, the fake Easter egg thumbnails. And then I go back and look for all the things they were talking about. So that's my process. Enjoyment, examining, listen to podcasts, super hyper analyze. That's usually my system.
That's intense, man.
Yeah.
And then when do you go and change all the Wikipedia pages?
Yeah, usually around midnight or
When do you start commenting on all the Reddits about how everyone's an idiot and you only know the truth?
Yeah, usually right after I hit my caps lock. That's when I
That's awesome. Okay, so give us a quick background on you, whatever you want to share, but have it a little focused on Marvel in terms of like, how did you even get into this? Were you reading comic books growing up? Like, tell us your story, man. What's your style?
Yeah, so growing up, I didn't really live in a community where comic books were like readily available. There weren't like comic book stores nearby, but I would go to the local library, and they only had DC comic books at my local library. So I read a lot of Green Lantern and Green Arrow because those are the ones that were just at my library as a kid. So I read comic books a lot at the library. And then my favorite movie when I was a kid was the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 1, the first Spider-Man. So that movie got me hyped. That one, I wanted to get super jacked like Tobey Maguire's in that movie. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got into superhero stuff, was just reading comic books at my library. And those early 2000s superhero movies. In the 5th grade, I wore a Superman sweatshirt to school every single day, and all the kids in my class called me Superman.
So that's how you get a cool nickname.
Yeah, just wear the same sweatshirt every day, and people will eventually just refer to the sweatshirt for your name.
That's awesome. I was in basketball once and did my hand like this, and they called me Panda for the rest of the year, like Kung Fu Panda, because apparently I look like I don't know. This isn't a good name. Can I get Superman or something else? Very annoying. That's awesome. So do you prefer DC or Marvel? Obviously you love both, but if you had to gun to your head, where would your loyalties lie?
I'd say Marvel, just because I think that recent works, Marvel has just been giving me way more content that I enjoy. I subscribe to HBO Max and Disney Plus, and I get way more use out of my Disney Plus than I do out of my HBO Max. I just think the quality of the content and the quantity, Marvel has just been killing it in these past 15 years or 13 years, ever since Iron Man came out.
Boo, traitor.
I know.
No, we're with you. We're the same way. I mean, I guess technically, I don't know. I sometimes lean Marvel, sometimes DC. I just lean at having fun.
Yeah.
If you were to boil down to my candy nugget center, I'm DC, but I love both.
So
Yeah,
I think
we're
DC
deep cut.
still has the best trilogy though. Like I don't think there's any Marvel trilogy that's as good as Christopher Nolan's Batman series. You know what I mean? Like there's no like even if you do the 3 Captain Americas, I still don't think they're as good as
Dark
Christopher
Knight.
Nolan Batman series or trilogy, I guess would be a better word. Like Iron Man's 3 movies, no. Thor's 3 movies collectively, no. You know what I mean? Who else has gotten 3 movies? But I think Marvel's
the rainy Spider-Man. If you count Sony's, would you count that as better, or would you still go Nolan?
For nostalgia, the Sam Raimi's, but actual like movie quality and like looking back and like holds up today, the Christopher Nolan Batman.
Sounds good. Yeah, especially as a trilogy.
Yeah.
So speaking of trilogies, we have another trilogies trailer that just dropped.
Yes.
And this is the big reason why we wanted you on, because you're such a like what do you even call it, that Johnny? Like it's not
Savant?
a conspiracy. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a good word.
What was the word?
Savant.
I don't know that word.
Oh, it just means like you're really good at it.
Oh, well, thank you.
Like a Wonder Boy, right?
Yeah, bring it back to DC.
Wonder.
It just means that me and Jay, our deep cuts on Marvel aren't that great, so
No,
we can
Okay.
cut
Well, hope
DC
I
all
don't let
day.
you down.
right. So DC Comics, like I grew up watching all the cartoons. I've read some of the comics. I'm much more familiar with DC. With Marvel, like a new character comes on, like spoiler warning for Loki and anything like that going forward on this cast, but
All spoilers.
when the Conqueror showed up, I was like, who's that?
Who dat?
Even when Thanos showed up like a few years ago, I was like,
Google
at the end of
Thanos?
Avengers, I was like, who's this purple guy with the weird chin? I don't know if you knew who was coming when these things happened, but for me, they were all a surprise.
Well, leading up to Loki, I was not as like I'm not as huge comic book like nerd super fan. Like I'm obsessed with things that are available on streaming services.
Okay.
Like I'm not paying. I don't have the money to go out and buy all the comic books. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
if it's on streaming services, I just like watch it on repeat. But if it's not available there, it's usually not something that I'm gonna be as involved with.
Well, it's kind of nice to not, I don't know. I feel like sometimes if I were to read the literature and then watch it, I'd probably enjoy it less because I'd be like, they didn't do it the right way,
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. So Johnny, you want to lead us off on the trailer?
Well, let's just go with how much have you loved this rendition, this Spider-Man, the Tom Holland, right, Jay?
Yeah.
Are you a big fan? Because I'm like you. I'm old school. Give me Maguire 2002. That second movie they made, still one of the best sequels I've seen.
Oh, hands down.
So that's where my heart is on Spider-Man. So I hold him up high. I even have my little Spider-Man on my statue here. So I keep him close to heart. So where were you on Tom Holland? Let's just start baseline.
Tom Holland, in general, I thought has done a great job. He looks young, and I think he's done a really good job of playing like a high school kid. Another thing that I really enjoyed about this rendition of Spider-Man with Tom Holland in the MCU is that we didn't have Uncle Ben die. We didn't have him get bit by the spider. We just jumped in with the Civil War, and then he got his movie already knowing Iron Man. I think had they done the, Uncle Ben dying and getting his powers and the Green Goblin again for the first film, it would have felt like old hat. But this was really refreshing for me in 2017 when that film came out. And I've loved that they've continued with that. Just a kind of a different spin on Spider-Man. I thought was the best way to do it.
It's kind of like watching Batman. If I have to watch his parents die one more time, I'm going to lose it. Like,
yes,
you're not going to do it better than Batman Begins. So why, I don't know. But I'm there with you. So this is terrible. I'm going to go a little against the grain here. I think Andrew Garfield is my favorite Spider-Man in terms of performance, not in terms of movies, in terms of performance.
I need a new co-host. I'm going to go on Craigslist for a new co-host.
Tobey Maguire is a little too teary-eyed for me a lot of the time. He makes his crying face a little too much. And then Tom Holland's a little too cutesy every now and again. He's a little too, I'm like, it lands a little out in left field for me.
Yeah, I think Andrew Garfield really nailed like kind of sometimes Spider-Man, and like depending on like what context he is, because obviously there's lots of different like runs of comics and different movies and shows. But I think oftentimes Spider-Man has like really like witty good like comebacks and like trash talk. And I think that's Andrew Garfield did that the best. Yeah,
I just, there's something about him I like, that he felt like an everyday man, but he also felt a little cool. And I don't know. I don't know. Other people have said differently. They liked that Tom Holland was pulling DVDs out of the garbage and it made him so relatable. But We should dive into the trailer though. So Johnny, did you have any other questions prior to the trailer?
No, let's dive deep.
Okay, so let me pull up my cheat sheet real quick. Guillermo's handing it to me. The first
That's our
question
producer.
I had, our producer Guillermo. Have we upgraded him to producer? I thought he was an intern.
Oh, producer's fine. Unpaid.
Anyway, okay. Do you think in the trailer it's really Doctor Strange, or do you think it's a variant or some other sort of something?
So that was my first instinct, was what is going on with Doctor Strange? Because he's supposed to be protecting our reality, douchebag, right? That's what he said to Tony Stark. That's his job. So I don't understand why he would be willing to completely alter Tom Holland's reality and that, like, you know, that Earth or that, you know, timeline's reality, just so that Peter didn't have his identity revealed. That doesn't seem very, you know, Doctor Strangey to me, based on the character that we know. But if it is a variant, what is he doing in that timeline with that Peter? Like, wouldn't he be like in his own timeline with like a different Peter?
So here was my thought. In the trailer, you see at one point Doctor Strange like in a almost like a subway or in a dark, like, you know what I'm talking about? He's levitating and meditating. Does that sound familiar?
Okay.
I can pull it up if you want.
Yeah, let's see it.
Okay, I'll pull it up. Johnny, can you give us your thoughts on Doctor Strange while I'm pulling it up?
Well, I think he's the right one. We don't know how this time he's affected by all this. Like, he lost his whole team. Time is different. People came back. They just defeated someone. It affects people differently. Like, the weight of the world is on him again. He's technically the leader of the Avengers now. I mean, not really, but he's the senior member of who's around. So he could be depleted. He could be taking it hard. That's what I think. I think he's just a little more battered, a little more beat up. It's been, what, 4 months? My timeline's weird with him, but I'm going to put 4 months.
Whatever they do with Doctor Strange, I hope they don't like Luke Skywalker him like they did in The Last Jedi, where they're like, oh, this tragic thing happened, and now like he's a different character. It's like, no, it's like, I want it to be explained to me. Like, I want to see what, if it is something that happened to him, I want them to like talk through it, and like I want to see, or I want them to show me what happened to Stephen Strange rather than just being told he's having a hard time.
Which might not be explained till his movie. That's why I was shocked. Were you shocked to see him in this trailer? Because I don't dive deep before. I wasn't expecting him this big in the movie.
No, I certainly was not. I was expecting to see Loki and Wanda in Doctor Strange's movie, Multiverse of Madness. It's coming out in March 2022. But I was not expecting to see him in this film.
Exactly, right? Which was a good surprise, but bad. But because my friend was like, I haven't seen this yet. And she's the biggest Doctor Strange fan I know. And I'm like, watch the trailer. And then 10 minutes later, she called me. Yep. I want to see the movie now.
Yeah. We were commenting before the cast on how it's interesting how beloved Doctor Strange is. Like on mine and Johnny's, our followers voted like the highest ranked movies. And he was an S tier movie. Like, he made it into the top 3 or 4, I think. Wyatt was commenting on that too.
Yeah, I thought that was super interesting because I think it was a really well-made movie for sure. Like, visually, it was really cool. You know, understanding like those like different dimensions and stuff like that, getting like the hold on his character that I think is going to have a big role to play in the future of the MCU. I think important, but at the same time, I don't think it was like super monumental like other MCU films have been. I was surprised to see it so high.
Okay, so this is the clip I was talking about. I'm not going to play volume. Right there, you see him chilling in some sort of thing, and he looks very Doctor Strange-esque. And you almost look like maybe he's got, these could just be his normal bracelets or whatever, but I almost wonder what he's doing in here meditating. Anyway, I think if anyone could jump if anyone could jump realities or multiverse, if anyone could jump between them, it would be Doctor Strange. And so it wouldn't surprise me if one had come in and hijacked. And so I thought my prediction is that is the real Doctor Strange from our timeline. And this guy who's winking and
Holding that mug.
Holding that mug and winking here, wearing Uggs and sweatpants. My prediction is that is not Doctor Strange. That's just my prediction. But we'll see. I thought it's a fun fan theory. Even if it doesn't come true, I just enjoy trailers that like make me wonder, you know?
Well, we heard the Mephisto rumors coming around again for this movie specifically. You know, there's that scene when Peter's walking into school and someone's holding up a sign that says, you know, devil in disguise. You know, it shows Peter and it has horns, I think, and maybe a mustache. And I was thinking, oh, is this another Mephisto tease? Or is this just, you know, fans grasping at straws?
There's a fly. The fly is Mephisto. That was a thing from WandaVision. There at one point there was like a fly, and maybe it was just wandered onto set. It didn't look like it, but they were like, oh, that's Mephisto, like every little thing.
That one got away from me. Yeah, Mephisto's not really a character that I'm super familiar with. It's someone I've like learned more about since WandaVision. But I think I think there's a comic book run, from what I understand, called One More Day of Spider-Man, where he makes a deal with Mephisto to like make sure like no one knows his like identity. And some people are theorizing that this Spider-Man movie is based on that run of comics.
That'd be cool.
But in that run of comics, like, the way we're seeing Doctor Strange portrayed is the way that Mephisto is. He's kind of like the person casting the spell or making this magic happen rather than Doctor Strange. So that's why some people are theorizing that this Doctor Strange is Mephisto, because there's a comic book run apparently. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry.
Then you're wrong. Then you're wrong.
Sorry.
That's the point. I don't know. I'm not even that, like, who cares if people know you're Peter Parker? That's the perk of this one. Everyone knows who Iron Man is. Everyone knows who Cap is. It's really not. I know he's still trying to be in high school and like all their lives were done, but I feel like it's not that big of a deal now, especially because he saved everybody.
Yeah, I kind of had
they're over making it.
Couldn't Old Man Cap go on Good Morning America with you and clear your name on all the hostility while you're under investigation? Like, I feel like he could pull some strings and get the American people warm.
Well, I mean, SHIELD still has some government impact here and there. Like, they could easily.
That's what I was asking myself, is what is the function of SHIELD at this point? Because at the end of Far From Home, we saw Nick Fury in space with the Kree. No, not with the Kree, with the shape-shifting guys.
No, you're right. The Skrulls. Thanks, Johnny.
The Skrulls, yeah. We see him in space with the Skrulls, with in a giant ship that's like a sword, right? He's in sword now. So what is the function of SHIELD? What's the function of sword? How come Nick Fury can't get him out of this? Because obviously he's got more clout and more power in the government than like these local cops that arrested Peter in the trailer, right? It's like he can just get him out of that pretty easily. But then again, Sam Wilson can't pay for his mortgage, so
yeah,
that's how much the government helps the Avengers.
Right, Vision can somehow buy a house even though he's a robot, but Sam Wilson can't, get a loan on a boat. I was kind of like, huh?
What? Yeah.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Next question. Will Doc Ock be a good guy or a bad guy?
Well, I think Octavius has always had good intentions, especially like in the second Spider-Man film. He wanted to create clean energy, but then like when there was that surge of power and like hit that chip that was in the back of his brain, and then the tentacles, the arms took over. So I think he is a good person. It's just whether or not he's in charge or whether or not the tentacles, his metal arms are in control. So I don't know. I hope he's a good guy, and I hope that's a good plot twist.
That would be sick. Johnny, what about you?
Well, I don't know. I think they might start him off. I don't even know if this is the Octavian that we knew. It could be a different version of him. I hope it is, because again, that brought back my 2004 heart whenever that was dropped. I was all about that. That was the one time I got mad at a spoiler, because I would love to see that in the theater live.
I heard Kevin Feige was pretty mad about that with Alfred Molina's, that he spoiled that he was in the film.
Right? Because that would have been massive. And there still could be, like, they were saying how what's the Green Goblin?
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, if he's in it, because I'm like, bring them all back. Who cares? Throw them all down there.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I think Willem Dafoe has the face of Green Goblin. He just like fits it perfectly. Him and Alfred Molina, I think, are two actors that are so perfectly cast that if they tried to do anyone else, that it would feel wrong. It's almost like someone else playing Wolverine rather than like Hugh Jackman. It's like Hugh Jackman just fits it so perfectly. Maybe he's a little too tall, but like besides that, he's the perfect Wolverine, and it'd be hard to see someone else in that role. So I think bringing both those actors back is a really good call.
I really like William Dafoe's Green Goblin, but there's something about Alfred Molina's Doc Ock. I just like how wholesome he feels. Like there's just, William Dafoe can't really portray that in my mind. He's a little too eerie with that big grin and everything, but Alfred Molina can play both a bad guy, but he can play such a good guy. Like when he's at the end of Spider-Man 2, when he's just laying there and he's like, Peter Parker, brilliant but lazy, like putting it together in his head, and he just laughs at it. Like he's so likable. I don't know. Even in this moment where he says, "Hello, Peter," like he's so likable. I just want him to be good. So My vote is that I hope he's a good guy. People say because the tentacle lights are red, that means they're in control. But here's the thing about that. They could add that for the trailer. They did it with Infinity War and the Hulk being on Wakanda.
The Buster suit, yeah.
So you can't fully trust trailers either. That's the other thing, is they do change, like a lot of stuff in trailers won't end up in the final movie.
Yeah, that's true. I saw that on YouTube as well. The red light theory.
But I mean, yeah, that in my mind, that doesn't actually mean anything. So,
No.
Okay, and you're gonna have to go deep dive on this one. Who's really responsible for the multiverse? All the memes are saying it's all three: Doctor Strange, Wanda, and Loki. And
Alligator Loki. Done.
Alligator Loki.
Get it over with. That's who controls the universe.
Who do you think's most responsible, or are they all responsible? What are your thoughts on it, having dived in to the level you have?
So I think based on the TV shows we've watched on Disney Plus, I think Loki and Lady Loki, Sylvie, are most responsible for the multiverse that's happening right now, because we saw it happen in their show. You know what I mean? It's like we saw the branches of the timeline split. It's like, I don't know if like WandaVision, what Wanda was doing, had that big of an effect outside of, her own town. But that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Loki.
Have you enjoyed those shows? Just real quick tangent. Have you enjoyed those shows? Give us, like, out of 10, what would your rating be on the shows?
I would give WandaVision an 8, Falcon Winter Soldier a 7, Loki a 9. So like 8 great, 7 good, 9 amazing. Okay. That's the IGN video game scale. With.
Sounds good. I like it.
Yeah, I thought they've been really fun. I really enjoyed the week-to-week format. Even though I do prefer movies, because I love having like that 2.5 to 3 hour time slot to just get the whole story in.
And the
week-to-week stuff is good.
The budgets that come with movies, all that money spent on 2.5 hours. The pacing is, so for me, the pacing is the big thing. I get kind of bored on shows. I'm like, I kind of want to watch a movie. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm a big movie guy, so.
I think it's good to have both, but I also enjoy the pacing of movies more than I enjoy the TV shows. But I like the discourse around TV shows.
So you think Loki's most responsible?
I do. I just feel like watching, because we know that Kang is the cause of the multiverse, because he's the one that discovers the ability to go from universe to universe. And Loki and Sylvie, mainly Sylvie's the one that unleashed him by killing him and no longer controlling the sacred timeline. So I think they're the most responsible. I don't necessarily see how what Wanda did could impact like creating like multiverses like that, even though like she's like a nexus being, which is a phrase I don't totally understand. And I guess we'll see how responsible Doctor Strange and Peter are in this upcoming movie.
Yeah, I'm curious about that too. I like their memes about like what everyone thinks. It's like all of them are dancing. To describe the meme, it's like Wanda, Loki, and one other character. I can't remember. Maybe it's just those two, and they're like dancing, and Sylvie are all dancing, having a good time. Like, and it's saying destroying the reality. It's like what we thought, and Doctor Strange is in the background, like losing his mind. And then it's like reality. He's in there dancing with them, like enjoying it.
Oh, funny.
Kind of funny. I'll share the meme to our Instagram page.
So, when you text me that question about who's responsible for it, first I read it as who should be in charge of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's hear that.
And what I thought was, Doctor Strange, right? Like Sorcerer Supreme protecting our reality. You know what I mean? And there's probably other Doctor Strange or other Sorcerer Supremes and other realities that are in charge of protecting that reality as the Sorcerer Supreme. So I hope that Doctor Strange will fulfill the role of protecting our reality. And maybe that's why there is a variant here. Maybe, he got bested by another Doctor Strange and our reality is not being protected by him. So I think, that falls under his role of Sorcerer Supreme, is protecting our reality. He's responsible for our care.
So I real quick before we move off, Johnny, did you want to cover like future Marvel projects? How you see this one?
That's where I was gonna go, because you're super stoked for.
Wait! Before you do that, Johnny, can I do one other thing?
Oh yeah. I was just gonna.
Okay, before we move off the movie, I wanted to make two more kind of questions. So one of them, Do you think we'll see the other Peter Parkers? Do you want to see them? Do you want to see Tobey Maguire and Peter Parker? Oh my gosh, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker.
I would love to.
Okay.
Ever since I saw Into the Spider-Verse, I was like, they should do like a Spider-Man crossover movie with all the Spider-Man. Like that was my first thought when I saw the post-credit scene on Into the Spider-Verse. So I've been hoping for that since like 2018. So I think that would be incredible.
Johnny, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, Spider-Verse was honestly probably my favorite Spider-Man in a long time. So
Really good.
that was a good idea.
I think that's a masterpiece film. That's a 10 for me. That's really good.
That's the rare movie where I've watched it over and over and I love every bit, even the soundtrack. Like everything is just amazing.
So I'm an English teacher. I teach English as a second language or English language development. And I had my classes watch that film because it was on the district approved list.
Nice.
It's such a good film.
It was really good. Yeah, everyone wrote like reports on it and stuff. It was really good.
Plus, I think that my favorites, I have to go back on my word. I meant live action Spider-Man. I think my favorite Spider-Man is Nick Miller. What's his name in real life, Johnny?
What is it? Peter B. Parker?
Yeah.
Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Yes.
His real name is I forgot. Oh, Jake Johnson.
Thank you.
From
Yeah.
New Girl.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was like, Chris Pine is like an old Spider-Man. I'm like, that works. It's like I could see like old Spider-Man Chris Pine.
Yeah.
Oh, that would work too. I think, and because I grew up in like 90s Spider-Man, the cartoon, the animated series or Amazing Spider-Man. That was my rendition of Spider-Man. So no one's been close to him, but he was in his late 20s. So it's been kind of hard to do him.
Yeah.
I really like Peter B. Parker though. He's my favorite Spider-Man.
Just because you want to wear sweatpants.
He's so funny.
That's why everyone loves, Spider-Man and Peter Parker because he's such like a relatable character, And Peter B. Parker was the most relatable. Because, like, I'm super lazy. I'm a little heavier than I should be. I'm not as in good of shape as I want to be, And that's like Peter B. Parker right there. But he's still trying his best.
Just that voice. Yeah. And what was fun was he was still pretty good at Spider-Man.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Johnny?
I was just gonna say, like, a lot of people always say they love Batman, but they love Bruce Wayne, but they love Batman, but they hate Bruce Wayne because he's rich and whiny and I'm an orphan. Like Spider-Man had the same issue, right? He's an orphan, but he didn't have any money, but he was happy. So Peter Parker and Spider-Man are just happy regardless. So their overall character, you can love both of them. So that's why I thought they did a great job of no matter what, you always love them.
Yeah. So the final point I wanted to make before we move on to like future Marvel, last question. The title of the movie is No Way Home. Do you think that Peter ends the movie on a different timeline? Before you answer, actually, I'll answer at the end. I'll answer at the end. Go ahead. What do you think? Do you think there's no way home at the end of the movie?
I'll let you go, Johnny.
No, I think they're just doing it. I mean, Far From Home, like he was far from home, but he's not that far from. I think like he was on a different planet. So they were always. I don't think so. No, Jay. I think he goes home. I mean, it's their last Sony, right? We lost the movie after this. Spider-Man's not owned by Marvel, Disney Marvel. So they'll give him a proper send-off.
Have we heard any confirmation that this is the last of the Tom Holland in the MCU?
Last contractual one, I think, is what I've heard. But
because Sony doesn't want to give him the full rights.
Right. New contracts can be made, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, money talks.
Right.
For both parties.
I hope that this is not the end of our Tom Holland in the MCU. I hope that there's a way for him to be home. I would love to see him out of high school and be like early 20s Peter Parker rather than be high school Peter Parker. So I do not think that there will be no literal way home for him. I hope it's just like the thick of the movie. That's what he's trying to overcome is getting back home, and it seems impossible. So I hope.
Real quick on that, should he be in charge of the Avengers, the new leader? In a couple years?
Thank goodness. If you said yes, I'd be like, whew.
In a couple years, not now, but he's the future.
I think Sam should be, as Captain America should be head of the Avengers. And I think the Wakandans can step in with the new Black Panther that they have as like kind of like Tony supporting like with the tech and like, all the goodies. But I think Sam should be
I like that one.
The leader of the Avengers.
Had Chadwick Boseman not died, my hope was that he was going to take over as the Captain America role. He's an enhanced human. He's got vibranium, and he's like the model, like moral figure in a lot of ways. Not that Sam isn't, but
My only thing with T'Challa being the leader of the Avengers is that he's also the king of Wakanda.
That's fine.
You know what I mean? It's like I feel like
both.
He's got two big responsibilities.
Chadwick's my boy. I still tear up a little thinking about him dying, man. I don't know why. I really like Black Panther.
I'll let you answer your thing, Jay, because I'll go back to that one real quick, just because we'll go on What If. I don't know. I want to see if Wyatt's been watching the What If series.
Okay, I haven't been watching it, so feel free to spoil it. I won't be offended. Just
I have been watching.
Good. Okay, Jay, say your comment. Sorry.
Okay, so this is actually coming from my boy Ellie West, my boy. Big shout out to him. So the title of the movie is No Way Home. I think this is Sony's way of taking back Spider-Man without killing Tom Holland. You can transfer him to another multiverse in which you have Venom and Carnage. And I think Venom 3 is going to revolve around Venom versus Spider-Man. And I think Tom Holland's going to get transported to that universe, and that's the No Way Home. And they'll have to draft up a new contract to get him back for another Avengers movie. That's my prediction.
So do you think in that Sony film, they'll still have Zendaya and the same cast?
No, I think they'll just take Spider-Man, and he'll still be the same Spider-Man. Like, he still has the same past, but Zendaya is going to be missing him on another timeline. And I think it's Sony's way of getting to take Tom Holland for their own movies for a little bit and then give him back. That's my opinion, my prediction.
No, that makes sense. Spider-Man is huge money for Sony. Not only like
That's all they have.
Yeah, really though, like in the IP realm, he's huge, especially like in video games. Like Spider-Man on PS4, it was like one of the best-selling PS4 games. It sold like, I don't know, at least 10 million copies. You know what I mean?
Sold
like,
out quick too.
He's almost as big of a figure as, when you think of buying Star Wars. I would say Spider-Man himself is not on that same level. $4 billion 10 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you would at least $1 billion it would cost to take that property.
He's huge. It's like little boys, little kids who don't even know, haven't even seen a Spider-Man show, love him. Like my nephew has never seen any Spider-Man thing ever, and he loves Spider-Man.
And Spider-Gwen is the coolest strong female character like ever. She's so cool. Spider-Gwen? Oh.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she was awesome in Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, I like Spider-Gwen. All right, let's Johnny, you take us into.
I was just gonna go on What If, and then a little end on the new one coming out in a few weeks, Shang-Chi.
Yeah, well, I also want to hear, how do you think, how do you think all this affects what we've seen so far in the trailer? What do you think? What are your predictions for future movies? Kind of that along that lines, Johnny. I want to hear that too.
Cool. So real quick on What If, which I was not a fan of the first one. I love Captain America, but I thought it was such a retold when it was Peggy was Captain. I was like, this is the same thing. But the last two and a half were really, really good. And they did a shout out to what was Black Panther's name? We're really bad at names. Yeah, Chad. And it was just a very pretty told, and they gave him a nice effigy. I was just saying, Jay, if you watch it again, you will tear up, because I did. Okay. It was a nice homage to him.
I feel like I'm the only person who did not like the second episode of What If.
That was okay. The third one was
the third one was What If they killed the Avengers
before they were Avengers, and the second one was Black Panther instead of Quail as Star-Lord.
Exactly. Because
really, I loved it. I thought it was a cool one. I liked it.
My beef with it was that I love Peter Quill. I think he's an awesome character that does the right thing when he needs to do the right thing, like taking the Power Stone from Ronan the Destroyer, like sacrificing his powers to stop Ego. I think he has saved the universe twice, the galaxy twice. And like the way, I feel like they kind of did him dirty by being like, oh, if it wasn't Peter, if it was T'Challa, then like they would have stopped Thanos, and like he would have like space would have been safer. And it's like, I just don't feel like that's like realistic for one character to like have such like a lasting impact and such like a wide impact. Like, and I know it's What If, but I still like, I didn't buy it. I was like, no, it's like, no way. Like T'Challa could not have talked the Mad Titan out of his plan. Like that's not happening.
This is just genocide.
Peter dirty.
It'd have been cooler if they'd have just killed the Mad Titan. If he'd have taken him out, that'd have been cool.
But he doesn't kill, so.
I'll need to watch it. I haven't watched it.
It was a lot better than I thought. The first one didn't get me going, but I liked it. I like the other ones.
The first episode I thought was really good. I feel like I'm like the opposite of everyone else. I liked the first one, didn't like the second one as much. Because I love First Avenger, so I thought that was really cool to see that. I thought it was really cool to see Peggy in that role. And then I really enjoyed the third episode because it was like a, kind of like a whodunit. The whole time we are trying to figure out, who was behind it. I like the mystery. I love mystery in movies and TV shows.
I did laugh out loud when he was about to get, little spoiler here, when he was about to get the pager to call in Captain Marvel, when everyone was like, why didn't he do that in the first movie? So that was a funny little homage to a callback, because they're like, why didn't he just call her when the planet was taken over by aliens? So he kind of did that a little bit in the what if, but then backtracked. So it was just funny to see that.
But then in the end he did, because when when he found Cap's shield, there she was. So I thought that was pretty cool. I hope that
I would see more. You're right. I would see more of the third one. I wish they made more of a series of the third one. That'd be cool to see Cap and Nick and Captain Marvel take the world away from Loki. That'd be really cool. Like if they did a whole 8 episodes of that.
I could watch 8 episodes of that for
right?
sure.
Yeah, out of all of them, that's the only one I would really care about so far.
Agreed.
Watching a series, I think it'd be really cool. And
it would be cool to see what Avengers he would make. Now that Tony's dead, Bruce is dead, Natasha's dead. Hawkeye.
Did Hawkeye die too?
Yeah, Hawkeye's dead, and Thor. So it's
that's
like,
right.
So then like he would have. So he has Captain Marvel,
Spider-Man. He's still big.
Spidey. He could take Captain T'Challa.
I mean, they would probably take some of the X-Men because why not? They haven't, or Fantastic Four. Now that they own them, they'll take Fantastic Four.
Sorry.
Oh, a lot Marvel can do. That's what I hate when people are like, oh, I'm so done, it's over, and I'm like, yeah, but there's so much more they can do. It's never over.
Do you want it to be over one day?
No, I'm one of those. If I love new content coming out, and it's as long as you do a different story, I'm fine. Like that's why I like What If. It's a different story.
I kind of hope that they did the Infinity Saga was what, like 22, 23 films, something like that. I hope that they do a multiverse saga that's like the same length, maybe 15 to 20 films, and then they're like they like put a bow on it and they're done for a minute.
That's what DC should do, but we'll see if Marvel gets the hint.
I wanted them to do that with after the Infinity, because I don't want them touching the story. The story was so good. So when Loki and the TVA step in and start kind of messing with, like, oh, it would have happened anyway, like Thanos wouldn't have won anyway. I don't like that. Like, couldn't the TVA have happened in the future or like on another thing and not associated with Thanos at all? Like, leave the story as it is. We don't need to add to it. It's like Knights of the Old Republic. You can still be in Star Wars and have nothing to do with the original trilogy. It's what they should have done with the sequel trilogy. Like, why are we jacking up Luke Skywalker? Like you said, like Luke Skywalker was my childhood hero. Why is he this old bum now? And why is Mark Hamill crying on set? Because we want to make him into a relatable character. So it drives me crazy when you tell your story, it's finished, but wait, there's more. Like, I hate that.
That's the problem often with TV shows. Like TV shows, they just want one more season, and then they run out of good stuff. I saw that on your list of favorite TV shows, Jay, you had Avatar: Last Airbender.
Yeah.
And the reason that's one of the best shows of all time is because it's 3 perfect seasons, 1 continuous story, and then it wraps up. They didn't push for a season 4. You know what I mean? They just did a new story. And then, we can talk about Korra later, but
Korra should have been not the next Avatar. She should have been like 3 down the line, in my opinion, and had nothing to do with the original characters. Leave the original characters alone. Maybe you see Iroh in the spirit world, maybe, and that's as far as you take it.
Yeah, Legends of Korra was tough to watch, but Avatar: Last Airbender was like a perfect TV show. It's like 3 perfect seasons, and it's like that's like what the original Star Wars trilogy was. You know what I mean? As well. But I forgot what I was getting at. But I hope that they don't do the MCU until it sucks. Like, I hope that they go until they get a good point, and then they feel satisfied putting a bow on it, because it's like nothing like should last forever, even if it's awesome.
When you can, my point is, like, you can stay in the same universe and have completely new characters, completely new time frame. Like, you're talking way in the past, way in the future, way on the far side of the galaxy. Again, going back to Knights of the Old Republic, has nothing to do with the original trilogy, won't change it at all, and that's awesome. You know what I mean? Like,
Isn't that what they're doing with the Taika Waititi trilogy of Star Wars?
I'm talking. So there was an old video game from.
Well, I know, but isn't Taika
Okay.
Waititi going to get a trilogy of Star Wars films?
Yeah,
So isn't that what he's supposed to be doing? Isn't it supposed to be like completely unrelated?
I hope so.
That's what I had heard. Hopefully I'm not wrong or making that up. Hopefully that's what they do.
I think they're still sorting it out. They're in
It's
no
the
rush.
It's the same problem I have with stupid Harry Potter. This prequel is so dumb because it's trampling on a lot of the original stuff that J.K. put in the books. Now in the old in these new prequel movies are jacking it all up. Like it's destroying timelines and storylines and story threads and themes and drives me up the wall. Like I know you're making money. You can still make money in that universe, but put it to where it doesn't touch the story. You know what I mean? Like
You just hire Dave Filoni. Let Dave Filoni do Harry Potter.
yeah. Let him take it all.
Just say what you want, Jay. Just be Mandalorian. That's all you want. Just be the Mandalorian.
Yeah, well, and that's yeah. Okay, can I just say real quick? There's this problem in Hollywood currently with stakes, not the meat, but like you want high stakes movie, like half the universe died, right? In Infinity War, and we got to bring them back. It's like how do you raise the stakes from that? Right. I know there will be a multiverse, so then everything is going to be gone, all of existence, and it's like, really? Like this doesn't feel impactful. It's kind of like Rise of Skywalker, where all the Death Stars or all the Star Destroyers are now Death Stars and can blow up planets. Like that's stupid. I don't want that. I don't know. So raising stakes to me doesn't mean good. You know, it doesn't mean that it's going to be good, even though that's kind of the trend they try and do.
Well, that's why I love Black Widow, because like Black Widow was a great movie, and it was like once again it was I don't want to say street level, but it wasn't on that same level of like magnitude as those other films, right? It was like about her taking down the Red Room, which had like enslaved like let's say hundreds of women. You know what I mean? It's like that's still like super important and like a really good story, but it wasn't like the world was ending. Right. I think it's good to have that balance, go back and forth.
So here's my best example of it. On The Mandalorian, you love Baby Yoda, and Baby Yoda is one person. And if he were to die, you would cry and cry and cry and cry. When Kylo blows up 5 planets, or later when they blow up another planet, I don't care about a single person on that planet. I'm like, blow up more. I kind of like Kylo Ren. Go at it, man. Help yourself. You know what I mean? But if he were to touch Baby Yoda, I'd be like, no. So it's all about, for me, it's all about like, am I connected with the characters and what's going on with the characters? I don't care about the stakes at all. All I care about is like when half of humanity got dusted, it was important because you saw Spider-Man get dusted, and that's what hurt. It wasn't because you cared about the Wakanda soldiers in the background getting dusted. You didn't care at all. You know what I mean?
Right. It's like the stakes isn't the amount of people, it's how much you care about the people.
Yes, thank you. That's a good way of putting it. Anyway, so there's that trend right now in Hollywood, and it's driving me up the wall, and they are kind of doing it with Marvel right now, and it's making me lose my mind.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I still like the characters, so I think and I like that they're bringing in other characters I really like with the Spider-Man movie. So I'm hoping that it's not going to be cheap. I don't know. I think it's going to be good. I have good hopes. But I'm with you.
My biggest fear for Spider-Man Far From No Way Home is that it's going to be like It's a Wonderful Life. Have you guys seen that It's a Wonderful Life?
Yeah,
like
so nothing means anything. He just wakes up and, oh, it's JK.
Yeah, like in It's a Wonderful Life, it's a Christmas film about this guy who wishes he was never born, and then like his wish gets granted, and like no one in his, like his wife doesn't recognize him, like his family doesn't recognize him. It's like, and then he realizes how great his life was, and he wakes up and his life's normal on Christmas morning again. It's like, I really don't want the most of the movie to be Peter's being like, MJ doesn't remember me. My Aunt May doesn't remember me. Like, if that's a lot of the movie, boring. Like, I do not want that. Like, I want that to be such like a small glimpse of the film as people forgetting Peter. It's like, I don't want to have to watch that for, because it's probably going to be like a 2.5 hour film, right? So it's like, I do not want to watch Peter just being like, oh, I wish I didn't make that wish the whole time.
I'm really enjoying this conversation, Wyatt. I agree with you. So Gravity Falls is another one of my top favorite shows.
Amazing.
Yeah, 2 seasons, and then they haven't touched it since. And I love that. It's not like what's that, Johnny? What's that show you really like? You know, about all the nurses where everyone dies?
The nurses?
Grey's Anatomy?
Yeah, Johnny loves Grey's Anatomy.
What? Jay, I told you that in secrecy.
Hey, I watch Grey's Anatomy.
Just kidding. I've never seen an episode.
I have. I've seen, there's like 20 seasons or something like that. I've seen like 10.
So they never let it die.
It's crazy. It's like I'm not all caught up on it, but my wife is, and like I'll just like watch her and I'll be like, I don't recognize any of those characters. Like it's all new people all the time.
Imagine how good it'd be if they'd have just done like 8 seasons really well and then let it go. And then there's so many good stories out there. I don't know. Sorry, I'm on a soapbox right now. I'm with Wyatt. We opened a can of worms. And
anyway, what are your high hopes taking it back to Marvel for Shang-Chi? Like what Sorry, can't pronounce words. Because I heard because this is before, right, Spider-Man, and they're gonna tie in, hopefully, or at least at the cutscene at the end. I've been hearing a lot about the cutscene.
Spoils, Johnny. No spoils.
It's not spoiled that the cutscene. That every Marvel movie has a cutscene.
Right. Okay. Just leave it at that.
Wait. So I love Kim's Convenience, and the guy who's playing Shang-Chi, his name's Shimu Liu. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong. I've only seen it written. I haven't like heard him say it. But he's in a TV show called Kim's Convenience, and it's
on
about
Netflix.
Netflix. It's about a South Korean family who owns a convenience store in Toronto, and he's like the son in that show, and he is like awesome. He's super funny, so I'm really excited to see him like in this role because in that show he's really funny. So I'm like, am I gonna do like a Chris Pratt thing where it's like he was a comedian and I was like gonna be a cool like action guy? But today when I was watching the trailer of No Way Home for like the 10th time preparing for this, I got an ad for Shang-Chi, and it said Shang-Chi, the newest Avenger. That was like that was on the screen, like the newest Avenger. And I'm like, so who technically is an Avenger? Just any superhero in the Marvel universe? Or like, do you have to be like actually invited? Because like Tony knighted Peter. He said, you're an Avenger now. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, who is actually deciding who's an Avenger?
I think it's whoever steps up now, right? Because they don't really have an organization.
It's the same thing with Wanda. She was given the title from Hawkeye. And I would say Doctor Strange might not technically be an Avenger.
He never agreed to it.
Right. He just does his own thing.
Yeah, he's Sorcerer Supreme, you know, he's got Wong and all his homies over there.
Emotion
is a different group.
I think it was they've had 3 trailers for that movie, and like the newest one that dropped, a lot of it, the first like 12-15 seconds is a callback to Marvel, talking about all the fallen heroes. So that's why I think they're going to push Avengers a lot. Like the Avengers all fallen, and he's going to take over. So they're pushing that a lot, of him taking over, maybe, which is I think it'd be awesome. He's at least mature enough. He's not in high school.
Yeah.
Did it go Shang-Chi and then Spider-Man No Way Home?
Yeah. This one drops in like a week, right?
The Eternals comes out in November.
Yeah.
Is that
before? It goes?
Yeah, so it'll go Shang-Chi, and then it will be Eternals, and then Hawkeye, and then Spider-Man. And then Doctor Strange the year after in March.
That movie I'm so excited for.
Yeah, it'll be really good.
I'm really excited for it. And I've said this before. I think Doctor Strange is an incredible like addition to a movie. I think he's a great like cameo and a great compadre. And I like his original film. It's awesome. But like him and Thor Ragnarok was so good. Him in Infinity War. In Endgame was so good. No, Infinity War and Endgame, both. He was incredible. I think he does such a good job. He shines as a kind of like not the front man, but like as a part of the cast. You know what I mean? Like that's my opinion.
I agree. I think he's going to do really good. I loved him in Thor Ragnarok. He was only in it for like a couple minutes, but he did
Stole
great.
The show. So good. Yeah. Johnny, I'm getting close to wrapping up. Do we want to talk?
Yeah. I was just going to say a lot of stuff just drops. So
do you want to, what do you see? So you see Doctor Strange cleaning up the universe, and you see it potentially being a multiverse, being the next, like the Infinity Saga. Any other big predictions for us, Wyatt?
Any other big predictions?
Yes.
This is my biggest prediction. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Drop it.
I thought of this. So a lot of things I say and things I've said here, I'm not claiming ownership because I've listened to other podcasts, I listen to YouTubers, but this is my own original idea. And if someone else said it, that's okay, but I didn't hear it from them. So mutants are evolving. It's like a biological evolutionary step, right? It's the X gene. They're evolving. I think that mutants are going to come to pass in the MCU as a evolutionary step that's reactive to the blip.
Oh, I like that.
So I think people are going to come back and their body's going to be like, holy crap, what happened to us? We need to adapt and change. We need to evolve. And that's where mutants are coming from. So only people who came back from the blip, or the descendants of people who came back from the blip, does that make sense? Their kids will have the potential to be X-Men or have the X, the X gene. That's my prediction.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because the Kree's the one who, I think in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Kree dropped the gene in the water, and then everyone got mutant powers if they drank a certain fish or ate the fish oil. So this will work too. This will work for this universe.
So I hope that will. In my brain, that makes sense. It's like it triggered humans' necessity to evolve, and that's where they're going to get these superpowers from.
And they're supposed to drop in 2 years, X-Men, right? Because they bought them. MCU owns it, so it could drop in 2. I just saw a hypothetical Phase 5, and they had 2023 X-Men.
They haven't announced anything, I don't think. Same with Fantastic Four. They'll put them in eventually, but
yeah, I mean, it won't be until 2023 because they have to drop all this stuff in the next 2 years.
Well, Kang in some runs of comics is supposedly a descendant of Reed Richards, who is Mr. Fantastic. So hopefully that will tie in at some point. But I've also heard people, what?
Who is?
Kang. So supposedly Kang the Conqueror, yeah.
Okay.
He's supposedly a descendant of Reed Richards, who's Mr. Fantastic.
Okay.
Him and Sue Storm, who knows what they did?
Yeah. But I've heard other people theorizing that Kang is a descendant, rather than of Reed Richards, of Tony Stark. That's just a theory. Because it's like Reed Richards is supposed to be like one of the smartest guys in the world, right? He's the smartest Tony.
He's the smartest MCU guy out Marvel. I'll fight him over. That's who my money's on.
Yeah, so that's what people say, like, oh, like, so he's the smartest guy in the MCU, smartest or in Marvel canon, and and he's his descendant from like 1,000 years, 2,000 years, whatever in the future. So hopefully, if they're introducing Kang, they can introduce Fantastic Four and then like have some kind of connection there.
So in the timeline in Loki, he says that he was from he's like, oh, I existed from such and such date, right? And then that's when I made contact. What date was that? I thought it was in the past.
No, I thought it was like 1,000 years in the future.
It was the future.
Oh, it was. So I missed. Oh, because he said AD, not BC.
Yeah, he's from the future because that's when he's like, oh, I found myself, and then I found this, and so it's from the future.
Yeah. And I think about that because like he's a villain that I don't quite understand in some capacities, because it's like with Thanos is super buff, right? Big buff boy. He's got the Infinity Stones. Like Hulk can't take him down. But it's like with Kang, he's just like ultra smart. But it's like, how smart is ultra smart? It's like Bruce Banner's ultra smart. It's like Siri's super smart. It's like Tony's super smart. You know what I mean? It's like Peter's pretty smart. It's like, I don't know, how smart can you be? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I just feel like that's kind of a lame superpower. It's like, I'm super smart.
You can avoid getting hurt. I don't know. Got to predict time at least.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is he also can manipulate time. But anyways.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because if you're smart enough, you can modify your body, right? Which happens a lot, like Hulk or whatever else. Although that was more an accident than anything. But
yeah,
I think if you're gonna try and have him be a physical presence, he's gonna have to modify his body.
Yeah. There
also in Loki gets beat up by some random guy in a store. I'm still pissed about this. Sorry,
well, it was Loki. It was her. So
no, it was someone she was controlling, and
yeah,
Loki
so she can control it.
Thor.
So he can control it. Yeah.
Yeah. Does he inherit strength?
Yeah, she's got the strength. Sure.
No, I think a lot of people were bugged about that. Like the MCU has like a really hard time being consistent with their power scaling. But that's just superhero movies, right? It's like,
it's hard.
Like you want them to do cool stuff, but you also want them to like, I don't know, not
humanize a little.
It's hard to be consistent.
That's why I really, really liked I think it was Daredevil on Netflix. He got beat up a lot in the beginning, like the first season of that show. And I like that. I like to see a superhero or a hero who kind of gets beat up. Like, he's not invincible.
Well, I cut you off. What were you saying?
I think you're good. I don't think you cut me off.
Okay. I hope I didn't interrupt a spawning thought. That would have been another amazing prediction, like the X-Men evolving from the blip.
I like the snap better than the blip, but that's what they've decided to call it.
That's like what high schoolers called it. The snap's better.
Yeah, that's what they called it in Far From Home, was like the blip. But I think the snap makes more sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I love so Infinity War is my favorite movie of all time. I don't know. Give us your okay. We'll end on this, Johnny, if you're okay with it. I was gonna say, give us your top 3 Wyatt Marvel movies, just for us. You know, what are your S level movies, and then we'll close out with that.
You know, I feel like it's hard to not pick a crossover movie because that's like so epic. But my favorites are Infinity War, Civil War, and Ragnarok.
Those are great.
In that order?
Depends on the day.
You know, I feel like Ragnarok's at a disadvantage because it doesn't have like the epicness of all the superhero crossover. So, but yeah, probably in that order: Infinity War, Civil War, and Thor Ragnarok. Infinity War because of the epicness and the go nature of it, the continuous action. Civil War because of like the moral quandary of, you know, Team Cap versus Team Iron Man. Because like I walked out of that movie and after I saw it in theaters and I was like, oh, like Cap was obviously like right? And then I was genuinely surprised that people were like, no, Iron Man was right. So it was like really awesome to like walk out of there and be like, no, people agreed with the different heroes just based on their own moral compass. And then Ragnarok because of the humor and the action, and to seeing Thor actually evolve into a character that Chris Hemsworth liked playing.
Did Fat Thor bother you on that note?
A little bit, but I think it was important for him to fall so that he can rise in Love and Thunder. You know what I mean? It's like he had a lot of growth in Thor Ragnarok. And I think if they had just like had him like keep on growing through Endgame, you know what I mean? And then Thor Love and Thunder might not have been as meaningful, but since he's going to be back on a trajectory where he needs to go, he needs to rise again and be better. I think that'll be better for that movie. I didn't enjoy it though.
Yeah, I'm kind of, it's funny, we line up a lot. So I had the same thing. I like got into a heated argument about Team Cap. I was like, how can you vote for Iron Man? Like control all like, it was like exactly how you described it. They were adamant and I was adamant, and it was like, that's a good movie.
Yeah, 100% agree.
And then in Infinity War, dude, Thanos showing up always terrified me. Like we've never seen a villain like that where he'd just show up and dust, you know, not literally dust people, but he would just show up and people were dying wherever he went, you know, kills Loki, and then he kills Gamora.
Yeah, Gamora, Vision.
Yeah, rips it out of his head.
No, he's ruthless. You know, Thanos was a ruthless villain, and that's why I didn't like the second episode of What If, because there's no way T'Challa was talking that guy out of what he was doing. But yeah, that was, you know, it's hard to compare Infinity War to Endgame because, you know, Endgame had to have like resolution, but like Infinity War just got to do like cameo after cameo after cameo, like action after action after action. It was just like nonstop. So, but they're both incredible movies. But I love Infinity War for just the nonstop action. It was like one of the best movie-going experiences of my life.
It's the Empire Strikes Back of our generation.
I remember seeing, oh no, not Empire Strikes Back. When you said that, I was thinking Return of the Sith. Return of the Sith. I was like, no, yeah. I actually saw Empire Strikes Back in theaters during the pandemic because a friend rented out a movie theater and I got to see it in theater. And it came out 14 years before I was born. So it was kind of cool.
That's way sick. I think, Johnny, I'm at my end. Give us your final thoughts.
No, that's it. Wyatt, we can't thank you enough. And we have to have you back on once the universe settles a little more to see how right you were or how right you are. Because you are. You're right. No matter what, you're right. Even when you're wrong, you're right.
I'm right about something. My biggest fingers crossed is for the X-Men, for my theory that it's in reaction to their bodies evolving from the blip.
I like that theory a lot because New Mutants dropped and it wasn't anything cool. It's like one of the first times they could do it and it was nothing.
Well,
so I'm excited.
It also makes sense to introduce them that way because then it's like with the Eternals. It's like, oh, what were the Eternals doing this whole time? It's like, what was, you know, it's like, where was Professor Xavier this whole time? You know,
where was Cyclops? Where were these overpowered people like Storm that could just TKO them?
And I feel like that would be a really logical way to introduce them. It's like, oh, it's like, well, they didn't exist until the blip, and that's why they can still be adults to have these powers randomly.
Love it. Excited. Yeah. We'll have to have you back on just to talk Marvel with us because we don't have a deep well of Marvel fans, believe it or not. We do, but not this knowledgeable.
Well, Marvel, Johnny?
What?
Master of Marvel?
Master of Marvel. Yeah. Every time you come on, so our fans are knights. Anyone who listens to us, we knight them. And if you're awesome enough to give some time in your day to talk to us, we call you a master, because Jay's the master of death. I'm the master of light. And now you're the master of Marvel. That's a big title.
That is huge. Thank you.
So no one else can get the title. So you've officially cornered that market on Marvel. No one else is the master of Marvel.
Sweet. That's a good real estate to have in this industry.
It really is, yeah. So when we're huge and interviewing people, they'll be like, why am I not the interviewer? Or why am I not the master of Marvel? We'll be interviewing Kevin Feige and he'll be like, what the heck, guy?
Yeah. It was like, sorry, Kevin.
All right.
All right, figure your stuff out. We would have been Master Marvel sooner. Sorry.
Yep. No, that's an awesome title. Thank you. I'll have to get that tattooed on me somewhere.
Honestly, yes, we love it.
It rolls off the tongue, Master of Marvel.
Love it. Good call.
Any final thoughts for us, Wyatt?
No, just thanks for having me. I'm glad to be on the podcast. Glad to share my ideas. Hopefully I can, put some of those into the universe and just let them come true.
Love it.
Yeah. Will it into existence.
That's right. I'm willing it.
All right, Knights. We will see you on the flippity flop.
Flippity flip.